Welcome back.
Wait, you're out of frame. Hold up.
It's just because I'm so petite.
You're just so tiny.
Okay, you just can't see me.
Exactly.
Sorry. So, we last left off talking about how Baba is black and white, and how he's described as being black and white, even though he really isn't. And you also said how when Baba dies, Amir kind of gets to escape that. So do you want to pick up where you were kind of leaving off?
I would love to. So I did try to find the quotes in the book, and I was not able to find the quotes I was thinking of. But basically, to sum it up, Baba's, moral code and his, morally, he's, the only, sin a man can have is theft. When you steal the truth, or when you tell a lie, you steal a man's right to the truth. When you steal, you he said a bunch of stuff about stealing, and his entire thing is black and white, and the entire book he has this moral, if I'm gonna stand in front of this woman who's gonna get shot because that's the right thing to do, and he just does all of these things that are morally right and white instead of black. But later in the book we find out that he's committed the greatest sin, which is stealing the truth from his son, both of his sons actually, by not telling Hassan and Amir that they're half brothers. And that is just such an interesting thing for the author to put in the book when you think about it, because it's well, he stole this character who's supposed to represent only black and white and represent only right and wrong, is still just as flawed as other people. And I think that was the author's, that's Khaled's way of showing that literally everyone, nothing is black and white. Even this character that is supposed to be, that was written to be black and white,
is not black and white. And I really, really agree with that. And I think that's a very interesting point to bring up, because it does set up a lot for the story.
Right.
Like how you were saying, when he when he sleeps with Sanubar, who is Hassan's mother, and he knew the entire time that Hassan was his son.
Yeah.
He knew that. Ali knew that.
Yeah.
And you're right, he's not black and white.
No.
He stole the truth from his son, and in doing so, he stole a lot of other things from Amir, but going into that would take the rest of this podcast.
Yeah.
And I really agree with that, and I think it kind of goes back to the point of or the question of, can you atone your past mistakes?
Yeah.
Baba had the opportunity to. He had the so many chances in not only Amir's childhood, but his adulthood, to come clean and to tell him about it, but instead Amir found out through, was it Rahim Khan that told him?
Yeah.
He didn't find out
after his father died.
Yeah, and I can't even imagine finding out that, if, for example, we were related.
That'd be crazy.
And I didn't know. And my mom didn't tell me until she had passed away and somebody else had to tell me.
Yeah.
And, I think it does go back you can, but Baba chose not to because of his own pride and shame. He couldn't overcome that.
And his own guilt.
Yeah,
I think that's a huge thing. And going off of what you said, which is, you said so perfectly. I feel like I'm stumbling over literally everything I'm trying to say. But Amir obviously goes through all of this guilt and stuff that he has to. Hi, Cade. Do you want to say hi to the podcast?
You don't have to.
He says no. Amir grows up with all of the guilt he has over not helping his best friend, and later found out half-brother.
Yeah.
In a time where he needed to show his loyalty, going back to what we were talking about earlier. And I think that we were actually talking about this before in class.
Yeah.
If Baba had told Amir and Hassan about their actual childhood and their heritage and whatever, then maybe, and atone for that guilt, Amir would have been able to learn from that, and might have been able to figure out how to help his own guilt, or atone for his own guilt with Hassan earlier, instead of having to wait over over like a fourth of a century before feeling like he atoned enough for his guilt, if that makes sense.
No, that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
And just to kind of, you know, make sure that we're like doing this right, because we had to use like, it was literary devices.
Right.
One that came to mind for me when specifically thinking about this question was obviously the pomegranate.
Yeah.
It's such a big, and the use of symbolism, it is such a big symbol throughout the whole book, and I totally agree. Like if you...
I'm gonna pull up some of the...
Yeah, go ahead.
Page numbers it's on.
If you... A scar pomegranate, if you cut through the middle, you could, I don't know, glue it back together.
Right.
But you're not ever going to be able to fully restore that pomegranate to its full, like its fruitful first position,
Right.
which is fine. It doesn't make the pomegranate any less pomegranate-y.
Yeah.
But now it just has a big slash down the middle. And I think that that's kind of what past mistakes are like with the whole wounds and scars thing. Wounds turn into scars, but scars stay forever.
Because they heal,
but they stay.
but they stay.
And your mistakes stay forever, but you have the opportunity to heal them, and it's really just whether or not you actually do that.
Wow. Wow, she's deep. Wow, she's deep.
And it kind of also reminds me, this has nothing to really do with the book,
Okay.
but like it's like a same kind of symbol.
Yeah.
Like if you break a wine glass, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
and then you tape it back together, well, it's back together, but it's never going to be the same.
It's not gonna hold liquid anymore either, which
Yeah.
is its purpose, right?
Yeah, so it's a new thing,
Yeah.
but its original purpose was, I don't know, I guess taken away. But yeah.
Wow.
Anyways, do you have a pomegranate
Wow.
page?
Yes, I do. So on page 91, Amir is talking about like the past, I think, and he says, yeah, because he's thinking about his guilt and about Hassan, and he's saying, we had picked a dozen pomegranates from the tree. I unfolded the story I'd brought along, turned to the first page, then put it down. I stood up and picked up an overripe pomegranate that had fallen to the ground. And he says, what would you do if I hit you with this? I said, tossing the fruit up and down. Hassan's smile wilted. He looked older than I remembered. No, not older. Old. Was that possible? Lines had etched into his tanned face and creases framed his eyes, his mouth. I might as well have taken a knife and carved those lines myself. Wow.
Ooh, okay.
Wow. So, and then basically, he's like, Amir sits here and goes like, well, he says, what would you do? And the color fell from his face. Next to him, the stapled pages of the story I'd promised to read him fluttered in the breeze. I hurled the pomegranate at him. It struck him in the chest, exploded in a spray of red pulp. Hassan's cry was pregnant with surprise and pain.
Oh.
Hit me back, I snapped. And then this entire time, he's saying, like, hit me back, trying to get Hassan to fight him. And Hassan only takes the pomegranate and smashes it on his own forehead and goes, there, are you satisfied? Do you feel better? And he turns around and goes down the hill. So, the whole, like, and then later in the story, the pomegranate tree is dead. Which is like a huge symbolism and metaphor.
And it stops bearing fruit.
Bearing fruit, which, and when they were kids, like before all this happened, I'm coming back into the frame. Before all of this happened, the pomegranate tree was a symbol of their friendship and a symbol of how close they were. And then his guilt and the fact that they're not friends anymore, like, then the pomegranate tree dies when they get separated, and then it doesn't bear fruit again in the story, which I think is probably the way of the author saying, like, yeah, once, like, scars run deep. Wounds run deep and they don't heal. They scar, but they don't heal. And
exactly.
Yeah, that's basically what you were saying.
Yeah, no, but you said it better. And I think that they carve into the tree. I don't remember exactly. This is just me paraphrasing, but they write, I think, Amir and Hassan, the sultans of Kabul.
Yeah.
And I think that in the beginning, it's like you're carving into the tree because your, like, own wants. You're like, oh, I want to mark this tree, I don't know, as mine, or put something on this tree to symbolize something. and
like their friendship.
Yeah, and it's like I want to, in a twisted way, it's like I want to hurt this tree for my own pleasure. And that kind of, to me, connects to what that scene with the pomegranate where he threw it at Hassan.
Yeah.
And Hassan only hurt himself and was like, are you satisfied? Did that make you feel better? And Amir, I don't think that, like, this was his, like, actual, like, real intention.
Yeah.
But in the moment, it's the same thing with the tree. He was hurting Hassan for his own pleasure. And then when Hassan didn't give him that same satisfaction back,
yeah,
I don't know, something I guess felt missing.
Mm.
And I think what you said is absolutely true, that scars run deep, you know, not only Hassan's physical scar on his face, but all the scars of his past. And those scars led him to leave him in Kabul,
yeah,
where his eventual demise met him. And I don't know, I think that I agree, like, the scars and the pomegranate symbolism just really goes well together.
It does. It's really, and throughout the entire novel, Khaled uses, like, the most impressive, like, but obvious, like, he doesn't even try to hide it, and it's really, like, refreshing, actually, to be able to just read what he wants us to read. Like, the way he writes specifically, it's obviously to show symbolism and metaphors, and it's just, like, it's so nice because I understand what he's writing, and I think it's because he wanted it to reach a target audience, the book to reach, like, everybody. Yeah. And affect everybody. Yeah, and because it does. No, you're good.
Sorry. I agree. I think that there's a lot of, like, quote unquote classic books that don't put the meaning right on the page, and you kind of have to find it.
Gotta read between the lines a bit.
And, like, analyze it. And that's not, like, I don't hate that. It can be, like, fun to make a discovery sometimes. But when it's every single metaphor or every single instance, it does get annoying and repetitive, but I really agree. I like how he just puts it in your face.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, this is symbolism, this is a metaphor, like this, pay attention. Yeah. And he repeats it, like, the for you 1,000 times over.
Yeah.
The scars, the wounds, the pomegranates, like, it's all
there's so much repetition.
Constant. Yeah.
And it's just constantly in your face, and it's blatant. It's blatantly telling you. He blatantly tells you, like, what's wrong and what needs to be fixed and how it's gonna get fixed.
Yes.
And it's really, like, it's obvious he wrote this as a way to, like, bring attention
to what was
happening, and also as a way to, like, get people out of their heads and be like, yeah, no, this is, like, not okay. Yeah, this is not okay.
Yeah, and he's not, like, messing with your head. He's not, it doesn't say one thing and mean another. It means what it means.
It means what it means.
And that's very important to me as a reader. I like that reading style.
Same.
Just all up in your face and like that. And what you were kind of saying about how he was bringing attention to what was happening in Afghanistan, that reminded me of something that Miss Russell had said in class the day you were gone.
Oh.
Hattie was trying to figure out what literary devices to use, and she wanted to use illusion, which is using the plot to convey a certain message,
right,
or a certain thing. And she was talking about, trigger warning, the rape scene.
Yeah.
This is a really, really hard scene to read, and he keeps flashing back in between it, and it's just heartbreaking to read, and you're almost, like, there with him.
Yeah.
And the way that Khaled writes it.
Yeah.
But she was talking about how the illusion of the rape scene alludes to what was happening in Afghanistan.
And how no one was helping.
And how Amir was a bystander. And I think that that's really interesting, that whole, like, bystander syndrome, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Where everybody's watching, but nobody's helping because everybody thinks that someone else is going to help. And I think that that's another really important literary device that he uses a lot throughout the book.
Yeah.
But that scene specifically really stuck with me because, like we were saying, it's so in your face, but you still have to dig a little deeper to find it.
Wow. That was really good.
Any thoughts?
I completely agree. I think, yeah. I don't even know what else to say. You put it perfectly.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. What was the
other question?
What was our other question?
I know.
Hold on.
Let's get this out.
We'll pull it up.
Quick, I'll put some, like, elevator music in. Also, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be, like, talking over you. I just have
you're good.
A lot of things to say.
It's okay. Where's the thing? Nope, it's here.
Oh, it's getting more.
Okay, our
Sorry.
You get the tea too.
Yeah, seriously.
What was our third question? Our debatable question was, to what extent is it our conceptual question was, what causes people to change? I'll start us off with that one.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, what causes people to change? Well, I would say, as like a real life experience for me, things that cause me to change are like experiences that make me question who I am as a person, make me question who other people are as people, things that I truly believe I need to stand up for make me want to change. Basically anything that like is deep enough or big enough that causes you as a person that to like want to be better, to want to be different. And I think in this book, actually guilt is probably the biggest factor, which is kind of thank you is probably like in some ways counterproductive, or not counterproductive, like counterintuitive, because you wouldn't think that guilt would make you want to change, because it's guilt. You would just want it to be gone, right? But I think because of how much Amir wants his guilt gone, he does change, and he wants to atone for what he's done, even though he can't, for like half the novel he can't atone for what he's done, because he's just so petrified of what people will think of him for like not doing anything, and how he feels about himself for not doing anything. And he only is able to atone once he realizes the person he hurt was gone, which he felt regret for, and not like the ability to not be able to make it right with the person who he hurt. And the only way he was able to make it right was with the person that he hurt's son, which is really also like an interesting metaphor if you think about it. So
like the next of kin.
Yeah,
I completely agree. I think that guilt in this book as well is like the big thing that makes people want to change or forced to change. And I agree with you and everything you said about why you want to change, things that make you change.
Right.
Another thing, this is very obvious, but big events in people's lives can change the outcome of anything. And we were talking about in class earlier, the question was like, what was the protagonist, like what was a big event in the protagonist's life that I don't remember what the
moral code
that like shaped their moral code or something. And I think that we can really relate this question to that. And
for sure,
I think what you said as well for that question was very, very if you want to pull
it out.
While she's doing that, I can talk about mine.
Keep going.
I have no issue talking about me. But I kind of said, this one was not a banger, but I just said that, like, I think that the hair lip surgery for Hassan kind of changed things, or maybe not changed, but put things in perspective for Amir. Because I think that he'd seen, like, his dad paying for the surgery for his servant, who he's not supposed to care about, he's not supposed to feel anything for. But he's giving this surgery to his unknown at the time half-brother. And it's just kind of like, oh, he'll do that for him, but he won't do blank for me. And it's something small. And throughout the book, as a child, Amir reiterates how he wishes he had a scar. He wishes he had a wound that Baba could fix, and I think that's also a metaphor for his internal scars wanting to be healed by Baba. And that, I think, changed his life.
Wow.
So what did you say?
Well, really quick before I say, I just want to bounce off of that really quick. There's a quote in the book, and I definitely can't find it right now, but it's where Amir says, sometimes I felt like Baba treated Hassan like more of a son than me. Which we didn't know at the time was foreshadowing. And the truth. But also, Amir is given everything as a kid. Everything. And it reminds me of, this movie, The Count of Monte Cristo, this is so random, but there's this, like, Duke guy and his friend who's, like, the servant, and the Duke is given everything, and his servant is given, like, a whistle for his birthday or something, and the Duke is given, like, a pony, and this is so off topic,
No, it's okay.
but the servant is, like, so happy with his whistle and loves it so much, and it's, like, the best thing he's ever gotten in his entire life, and the Duke, all he wants is a whistle now, even though he got a pony for his birthday.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was, like, and that really, like, that just I connect with it here in this book.
No, 100%.
Like, all Amir wants is what Hassan has, even though he's the privileged one. He's the one who gets everything on his birthday. He's the one who, like, has the rich father, who has servants. And it's just really interesting to think about, like, well, what actually matters, quote, matters, like, in that sense.
Yeah, he's the one with the black Ford Mustang.
Yeah. So, there was that. just wanted to connect that really quick. So, for what we were talking about earlier,
Yes.
the question was, or our assignment was, select a single pivotal moment in the psychological or moral development of the protagonist and write a thesis. So my thesis was, and it's a long one, it's a doozy, be ready. In The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini, Amir's moral development is shaped by the consequences of breaking promises, as foreshadowed by Mr. Andrews' warning, "It's a dangerous business making promises to kids," which was on page 332, which parallels the horribly sad outcome of broken promises, which ends in Sarab's attempted suicide after Amir goes back on his word. And
Sorry, that's like,
yeah, that was kind of a banger. I kind of cooked with that one.
Just got heavy.
Yeah, and that was like, and I was reading this last night. Like, I finished the book last night, and I was reading it, and I was sobbing because it was so sad that this man, Mr. Andrews, we meet him on, like, page 315 or something.
Yeah.
We see him for, like, 3 pages, and we learn that he says it's a dangerous business making promises to kids, and then Amir walks out of the office, and the lady says, like, he hasn't been the same since his daughter died. And Amir goes, what? And she goes, suicide, which was direct foreshadowing because
To
Sarab. And Amir doesn't understand that, like, how much how much Sarab was, like, hurt by the orphanage he was in, and how much that part of his life, like, he would have rather killed himself than gone back to that, which, and Amir, like, doesn't understand that his promise meant so much more to Sarab. Yeah, it was a promise, and he went back on it and said, like, he was trying to sugarcoat it too. He was trying to be like, oh, it's like sour grapes, like, you just gotta wait for them to ripen before it's good. And here, I found it. What do you say? Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
Because he was so happy, and then, or Sarab was so happy, and then he just started sobbing. He was like, don't make me go back there, don't make me go back there. And Amir said that he has to, just, like, a little bit, and that no one's gonna hurt him again. Here on page 341 says, please, no, he croaked, I'm scared of that place, they'll hurt me, I don't want to go. And Amir says, no one is going to hurt you, never again. Yes, they will, they always say that, but they lie, please God. And he just, like, and then he won't, it's so horrible, I can't even talk about it. But, yeah.
No, I completely, and, like, when you were telling me about what you were gonna write, I was like, oh, that's gonna be a banger.
Yeah.
Just because it's just so, like, there's not a lot of times where books give me, like, physical reactions, but, like, that makes my stomach just, like, twist. Like, that's so god-awful.
Yeah.
And it makes me just, I said this to Ms. Russell earlier, like, why would you write this? Like,
yeah,
it's I understand, but it's like, oh my god, you know? And
Yeah.
I think that children throughout the book are talked about in very, like, interesting ways.
Yeah.
Like Raheem Khan in his, like, big quote where it's like children aren't coloring books.
Yeah.
I think that they're talked about in, like, very interesting but spot on ways.
Yeah.
And I completely agree with you. I think that that was a pivotal moment for both Sarab and Amir, even though Sarab isn't the protagonist.
Yeah.
But I think that even though it was much later into his adult life, was a big moment for him.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, he went back on his promise, and he not only did that to his son, but he did it to his father.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I've already hurt one member of this family, and then I did it again.
Yeah.
And that's something that is hard to atone.
Like, actions speak louder than words
Much
is all I can think
louder.
about. Is like,
Much.
he promised both times. Like, he didn't physically promise Hassan, but through like
Their friendship.
like through their friendship, he was saying like, I protect you. He kept saying, like, he never referred to him as his friend, but they were like best friends.
Yeah.
And through that he was promising, but then he went back, like he went back on it. He broke it when he didn't do anything to help. And then with Sarab, he physically promised that he wasn't gonna have to ever go back, and then he did. And I think that moment specifically, Amir realizes how much, like, promises mean and how much actions speak louder than words do.
Yeah.
Which changed
his life
a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that like, he probably learned that from Baba, because Baba made, I'm sure, a lot of promises, like you said, with his rich lifestyle growing up and his lavish relaxation.
Yeah.
He probably was promised a lot of things, and he probably did get a lot of things, but he was never promised, like, he was promised a father figure when he was born.
Yeah.
And in turn, he got someone he never really knew. And that's a promise, unspoken, but still a promise that when it's broken, I think that can last your whole life.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminds me just of the quote of not all parents deserve, or all kids deserve parents, but not all parents deserve kids.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I'm kind of going on like a tangent here.
That's okay.
But I think that you're completely right. And I think that it just changed his life and his perspective on a promise and why you should keep it.
Yeah. And how much, like,
Really means.
like how much your word truly does change people's lives, because he was ready to die before going back. And that would have been entirely on Amir.
Oh,
if that
100%.
It was entirely on
Yeah.
Amir, and if he had died, that would have been more guilt he would have to live
carry
with.
it.
Yeah. So that was definitely a part that really hit home.
Yeah, and just the way that Khaled Hosseini writes this,
Yeah.
and just like, there's so many big events that happen in Amir's life, and typically in a book like that, it's a really hard balance to have these super high highs and these super low lows.
He does such a good job.
Balances them so well, and they complement each other and they bounce off each other, and it's just like, oh, I just could go on about how good this book is.
Right, it's so good. And we had to, like, we were supposed to take notes on it, and it was like I had to stop every other page to take notes on metaphors.
Literally.
And whatever was being said, like, it was so good. I loved the writing so much.
And I think now that we've answered all of our
now we're just gonna have fun.
Now we're just gonna yap.
Yeah, we're just gonna yap. So
something that I really want to talk about that you brought up during fourth today, and I was like, holy cannoli, this girl is a smart cookie.
Oh, thanks.
Was the kite running at the beginning and the end of the book.
Yes.
I didn't catch that, but you did, and I was like, oh my god, that's genius.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of the book, it's that competition, is it not, where they win with the blue kite?
Yes.
And I think that's very, like, it's a very innocent time in Amir's life.
It is.
It was it before the surgery?
I don't think so, but it was before, like, all he wanted was his father's, like, attention.
Yeah.
Was all let me fact
Yeah,
check
yeah,
that.
you got it. I think it's around page 60 something. But it's a very innocent time in both of their lives, I think, because
I turned right to it.
they're sharing this joy that's just unprecedented, and it's just like pure unadulterated joy that you can only experience with a friend, or from winning, or from getting what you want. And like you said earlier, Amir has a lot of things that I'm sure many kids around the Afghanistan area want.
Yeah.
But that's not what he truly desires.
Yeah.
And in winning that competition, he got what he truly desired, even for that slim moment, which was Baba's praise and attention instead of on Hassan's. You know?
Yeah. That's really good. So I did find, this, before they do their kite running, he does get his lip surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually really interesting. I just turned to this page. It's 47. He says, then his lip twisted, and that time I knew just what he was doing. He was smiling, just as he had emerging from his mother's womb. The swelling subsided and the wound healed with time. Soon it was just a pink, jagged line running from up from his lip. By the following winter, it was only a faint scar, which was ironic because that was the winter Hassan stopped smiling.
That makes me like...
because we didn't know. Because we were reading and we knew, like, we knew that he was going to get sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
But we didn't know
that he was...
That, like...
That's what was going to happen.
Yeah, and that foreshadowing is crazy. And this is, like, 20 pages before their first kite running.
Yeah.
Happened, which I thought it was ironic that Amir finally got what he wanted just as he lost his best friend from guilt, like the same chapter, which like he got his father's praise and he got everything he wanted with his father, but he lost his best friend because he couldn't save him, or he didn't save him, not couldn't.
Yeah.
He had every option, every chance, but he didn't. And yeah, and it was the same chapter that happened.
Yeah, and I think it's like almost immediately after they win that kite. I almost said festival. Kite fight. It's
competition.
A kite fight. Yeah. I think it's immediately after that, almost like a couple pages of like building up that the scene happens in the alleyway.
Yeah.
And another interesting thing that I found in this is that Hassan, a lot through the book, I mean, not like an insane amount, but, you know, amount to, it's like, okay, this is definitely meaning something, is how he's so often referred to as a lamb.
Yeah.
And lambs are sacrificial in a lot of religions, and I think that it's kind of again, symbolism for Hassan of he is Amir's sacrifice for his whole life. Amir sacrificed him, and now this is the path that he is down, and he can't ever take him back. And I think that there's been many moments leading up to that, but I think he sacrificed him in that alley when he didn't say or do anything, and he just watched. Because when somebody's being sacrificed, you know, you don't get up there and stop them from being, I don't know, thrown into a volcano. I don't know. You don't stop that.
Yeah.
You watch. You're a bystander.
Yeah.
And I think that is when Hassan was sacrificed, I guess.
Wow, that
Bangers.
snaps for that. Yeah, snaps for that. I'm trying to find... Oh, here, I found it. Okay. I found it.
She found it.
So, remember how we were talking in the very beginning of this, our podcast, about how at the beginning, before they run the kites, Hassan says, "For you 1,000 times over." Well, I found that page. It's on page 67. After, you know, Amir just cut the kite and he wins. And he goes, "Hassan, I called, come back with it." He was already turning the street corner, his rubber boots kicking up the snow. He stopped, turned, he cupped his hands around his mouth. "For you 1,000 times over," he said. Then he smiled his Hassan smile and disappeared around the corner. And then it says, "The next time I saw him smiled unabashedly like that was 26 years later in a faded Polaroid photograph."
Ooh, sorry, that's like stabbed in the gut.
And after we've read it, we understand that's because he's dead by this point.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that... And that's so sad. That's so sad. And yeah, so he says, "For you 1,000 times over," and then...
At the very end.
But also, so Rob says, "For you 1,000 times over," I think, when
sometime
Amir
during
meets
that.
him
Oh yeah.
at some point before.
Yeah.
But then at the last page.
Very correct.
Yeah, the last page, Amir says, "For you 1,000 times over" to Sarab.
Yes.
Which I don't think he ever said to Hassan.
He didn't repeat it. I don't think.
No, I don't think
to
so.
him. And
Yeah.
also in the very beginning of the book, it's like page 2
Mhm.
or something.
That was.
He says.
You go. Sorry.
Sorry, no, you're good. He says something with 1,000. I think. I think it's maybe for you 1,000 times over.
Maybe.
It's something with 1,000.
Oh,
Yeah, it's back
here. Suddenly Hassan.
Yeah.
Oh, and suddenly Hassan's voice whispered in my head, "For you 1,000 times over." Hassan, the hair-lipped kite runner. This is on page 2.
Yep, and
then there's like Raheem Khan had said just before we hung up, almost as an afterthought, "There is a way to be good again." I looked up at those twin kites.
that goes. Sorry,
You're good. I'm just gonna read the
No, you're
rest of
good.
this and then you go. I thought about Hassan. I thought about Baba, Ali, Kabul. I thought of the life I had lived until the winter of 1975 came along and changed everything, and made me what I am today.
So I think that goes back the there is a way to be good again.
Yes,
To the
for
question, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of, is there a way to
Atone for your past
atone?
mistakes.
Yes, I was like aim.
Aim.
Atone for your past mistakes. Obviously Raheem Khan agrees with us.
Obviously.
There is a way to be good again, and I don't like the word good is so like
It means a different
subjective.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I almost said subjunctive. It's been
It's been a long
I'm
day.
thinking about Spanish. It's so subjective
Yeah.
to the person, because what good for you means doesn't mean what's good for me.
Not at all.
And I think that the way he says it is very beautiful and how it's just broad.
Mhm.
He doesn't specify what good is. He just
No.
says good. And how Amir thinks about what Hassan says, "For you 1,000 times over." And I think the repetition of 1,000 is also just like really interesting. You know, I don't know really what Khaled Hosseini was going with that repetition. At least I can't cook anything right now. But he repeats not maybe that phrase, but 1,000
He does.
a lot, and that hyperbole is so interesting to me.
Yeah,
So.
I agree. If we went digging for quotes, we could
Yeah.
probably find it, but that might take all day.
Yeah.
So we're not
We're
gonna
not
do
gonna
that.
go into that.
Yeah, but that's definitely, and that's one of the things we were talking about earlier with like the author does such a good job of like hiding metaphors, but also just blatantly giving you.
Exactly.
Like he blatantly tells you what he wants you to know, but also makes it deep enough that you can read between the lines and
Yeah.
understand deeper meanings.
Exactly, and I really like what he did is the meaning you find in it can be like literally whatever you want to find in it.
Yeah.
There's things that are set in stone that he meant,
Mhm.
but there's other little things like the 1,000s. That's completely subjective to what you read it and interpret it as, and I think that that's
Right.
why I'm so drawn to this book.
It's so good.
It's so good and it's so individual.
Yeah.
Like it's not set in stone. It's not black and white.
Yeah.
It is what you make it, and I think that is so important in books. As you can
Wow.
tell, we really like this book.
Yeah. I just want to go back to how there's only 2 instances of actual kite running
Oh,
in
yes,
the book
sorry.
really quick. We got so off
Yeah.
topic, holy crap. But the first time, as we were saying before, it's like Hassan is the one running the kite and Amir is the one who's flying the kite, and then in the end, the kite is like, I feel like the kite is a symbol for freedom. Freedom of guilt, freedom of like pain almost, like it's like a new beginnings. It's just a metaphor of like full circle, like all of these things, and the fact that it's actually Amir who's running the kite instead. And even though like Amir and Hassan were flying the kite together before Hassan ran it, for some reason the fact that Hassan was the one running the kite in the beginning and Amir was the one flying the kite in the beginning really hits home, and I feel like that's definitely an authorial choice.
Yes, 100%.
To show that it's Amir who's the one that's calling the shots. It's Amir who's the one who's like dominating, exactly, and Hassan is the one who's doing whatever Amir says, and in the end the role is almost flipped or reversed, and I think that's super interesting.
Yes, and it's now Sarab who is
Yeah.
flying the kite, I believe.
Yeah.
Even though they're working in tandem.
Yeah.
And another thing, you said that so beautifully.
Oh,
Just
thank
want
you.
to say that.
Thank you.
Snaps for Katie,
Oh.
everyone. But I also, the fact that the kite is blue in the beginning, I agree. I think that it's a symbol of freedom, and I think that blue almost is like a symbol of that in a way. Like, if you think about it, the United Nations main color is blue.
Yeah.
And FIFA has a lot of blue in it. Like, these big organizations that
Fight for
provide
freedom.
and were founded on freedom are blue.
Yeah.
And I think that the fact that Hassan only ran the kite shows that his freedom was fleeting.
Yeah.
And given to Amir when he went to America. And the fact that Amir was the one who was flying the kite symbolizes he's the one who gets the freedom.
Ooh. Oh, snaps. Oh, snaps.
He's
Okay.
the one that ultimately, like you said, calls the shots, is dominating, is the one. And then in the end, you know, Amir's not giving up his freedom. He's not revoking his, like, citizenship or anything, but he's giving up the freedom of not feeling that guilt.
Yeah.
And he's giving that up in order for Sarab to not have to live in the same world he did.
Yeah.
Because his father couldn't give up his guilt.
Yeah.
They had a terrible relationship. So by him running the kite, he's now, almost as like a respect to Hassan, he's giving up the freedom of, not guilt obviously, but the freedom of avoiding your feelings, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how to say it.
For lack of better wording, yeah. That's good. Wow, that was good. That was good. Oh my gosh.
We're coming up on an hour of talking.
Oh, no way.
And the
Holy
first part that
crap.
we recorded was only 20 minutes.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay, well, to continue on.
Yes.
Another thing I was thinking about last night when I was reading this is, like, so obviously, the author chose the Kite Runner as the title.
Yes.
But he only puts kite running instances twice in the entire book. Like, there's mentions of it, obviously.
But there's not actual physical.
Kite running in between. So I wanted to talk to you about, like, what a kite runner is.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's on you.
Without, like, using the word kite or using the word runner. So, like, obviously a kite runner, as we know, someone who runs a kite in the sport that people in Afghanistan play.
Yeah.
But I think Khaled
Hosseini.
Yes, thank you.
Khaled Hosseini.
I'm gonna cry. Is, like, he purposely chose to name it the Kite Runner as another metaphor. This one we had to kind of dig a little deeper for. But how do you think you would define a kite runner without using the word kite or runner?
And, like, the physical, like, actual, like, what it means without using the words, I would just say someone who fights with paper attached to wood. You know, like, it would be very literal, but in, I think...
Like, a more metaphorical way?
Yeah, in a metaphorical way, I would probably say, just what you said earlier, I would say someone with freedom. And with the ability to kind of manipulate that freedom in any which way that they see fit.
Yeah.
And not manipulate in, like, a dark and twisted, like, hurting people way, but in the sense that they can do what they want with that freedom.
Wow.
And freedom is free will.
Yeah.
You know, like, a lot of people don't have that, and I think that this is kind of tangenting, but I'm going to dead end it. I think we take advantage of the free will use that we have in this country specifically. Our rights aren't great. They kind of suck right now.
Yeah.
But I think that we do take advantage of that freedom, and in a way...
Like, you and I can go outside without covering our hair.
Yeah, and I could stand up on this table right now and I could yell, I hate women.
And no one would care.
Yeah, I could say I hate Trump.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be imprisoned.
Nope.
And I think in that sense, we're all kite runners.
Yeah.
And we all run our freedom. I don't know.
Snaps for that one. That I agree. I totally agree. I was thinking more in, like, when I was reading it anyway, I was thinking more in, like, well, a kite runner is someone, and not even the person flying the kite, like, the kite runner is someone who is trusted, who is like a comrade, like brother, almost companion, like friend, trusted advisor, like all of these things that to the point where it's like, oh yeah, I trust you to go run my kite and bring it back for us to win. Like that's like a huge thing. It's almost like you're giving up your command and your control to this person who's going to like
run your kite
for you. And I think that is a huge, like, we were talking about the trust thing and like loyalty and like trusting that the person you're letting run your kite is loyal enough to bring it back to you.
Mm-hmm.
And Amir never once doubted that. And I think in the end, when he's like, do you want me to run your kite for you, to Sarab, is him trying to show that Sarab can trust him again.
Yep.
And like, oh, thank you, I kind of ate with that one. And like, show that he is worth trusting and know that he's gonna come back with that kite.
Yeah.
And it doesn't say it in the book, but we both know he came back with that kite for Sarab. Like, we know. He got that kite.
And he's a grown man, you know.
Yeah,
like,
he's beating all of the children.
Yeah, like he is gonna come back with the kite, and that's huge steps, because I think that that's so not ingenious, so genius. And I just love the way your mind works.
Oh, thank you.
Like, I totally agree. I think that brings it back to loyalty, you know?
Right.
Even if this kite was... Who is vacuuming? Who is vacuuming? Anyways, I think that I, like, totally agree. A kite is maybe $5.
Maybe.
It's cheap.
Yeah.
It's flimsy. It's not anything of value. But that kite could ultimately lead to, like, a prize of $100.
Yeah.
You know, and if I trust you to fly me that kite and get me that money, that's putting a lot of trust in you.
Right.
And if you don't win and you get mad and you destroy the kite, probably not gonna let you do that again.
Exactly.
But like you said, Amir is trusting Hassan completely. There's not one like internal thought of, oh, what if he doesn't bring it back?
I'm pretty sure in the book it says like, oh, I knew he was coming back.
Yeah.
Like, he never missed.
No.
He always got the kite.
Yes, and he always brought it back for him.
He always brought it back. For him.
For him.
For him 1,000 times over.
Oh!
For him 1,000 times.
Oh,
and
killed
like,
him.
and the kite doesn't even represent a kite when you think about it. It
No.
represents like literally anything.
Anything you want it to.
Anything you want it to be. And that's like, oh, this author, he's so good at writing. Like, I want to be a good writer like this. Like, he's actually insane.
Right?
He's so... I'm gonna start
having a seizure.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree.
It's so good.
That it's just, like, I can't even, like, I can't even say words that would bring any justice
right
to how truly fruitful and amazing that this book is.
It's so good.
And I think a lot of the questions that you had on here were so good and, like, bangers.
Thank you.
I love that Kite Runner. Like, what is a Kite Runner?
Thanks.
How many asks? Yep. Are you a kite runner when it comes down to it?
Yeah.
Do you have no brothers at all? So, I think that I don't know. That's a really interesting question.
Like, would you be the one flying the kite, or would you be the one running the kite, and why?
I think
go like literally first, and then go metaphorically.
Yeah, literally probably running the kite, because I know jack crap about how to fly a kite. I think metaphorically. Sorry, I didn't want to say the word.
No, it's okay.
I think that's a really good question, because I feel like I could really go either way.
Yeah. Okay, well, think about I'm your partner.
Okay.
Okay.
I think if you were my partner, I'd probably be running the kite.
Okay.
Because I think that that's a really good point. I think bringing up who's with, like, I would say if it was like with Morgan, I'd probably run the kite, or I would probably fly the kite.
Yeah.
But with you, and it's not that I don't trust her, I just think that in that situation I would probably take more of a leadership role.
Right.
Just because I feel like that's how our dynamic kind of works. But I feel like our dynamic, we're pretty equal with that, I would say, but I would still probably trust you more than I would trust myself to fly that kite, because I would know that you probably could figure it out better than me.
Oh,
and
thanks.
You also probably would have more confidence than me.
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah,
when I think about it.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I think that I would, like I said, trust you more than myself to get that kite up in the air and to fly it and to win.
It's really interesting.
Yeah. And what about you?
Well, it's really interesting because I feel like in our scenario, I would also be flying the kite, which I don't even know why. Like, I just think I would have complete and total trust in you to bring the kite back.
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like that's just, like, I feel like I can apply that to life, too, and I feel like no matter what, I can trust you to, like, I don't even know, for lack of better wording, like,
I know what you mean.
Like, come back to me.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
No, it does make sense, like, to remain loyal.
Exactly. And the fact that we both, without even talking,
Yeah.
like, we're just talking. We're just talking.
Yeah,
we're just yapping.
we didn't plan this.
No, without even talking about it, we both feel like we would fit into those roles. Is just, like, kind of telling about who we are as people and how our relationship works and our dynamic.
Yeah.
And I think that's really interesting in, like, thinking about life, too, and just how, like,
I completely agree, and I think that, like, you know, like you said, I think that if, it really just depends on who you're with, but I think in our situation, just because it's relevant, you would definitely fly the kite, because I feel like I said, we're pretty equal, but I think that we bring different things to the table.
I agree.
Like, you bring a very big fake it till you make it, but I wouldn't know you're faking it.
Thanks.
I would think you're making it, you know?
Thanks.
For lack of better wording.
Yeah.
So I keep, like, touching my feet.
Playing footsies.
And I'm like, is this a
No,
is this like
me.
a thing? And then I'm like, oh my god, that's her feet.
It's okay.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
But I think that you kind of bring that to the table, and you really are just so, like, grounded in at least what you believe you can do. Like, if you tell yourself you can do something, you can do it.
You best bet I'm gonna do that.
You're gonna give it your all.
Yeah.
Even if you don't actually do it.
Yeah.
It was the principle that counts. And I think that I believe, like, I tell myself if I can't do it, I can't do it. And that's a mental block for me. Yeah. But I think that I also do bring, at least I've been told, that I'm very, very loyal.
So loyal.
And that I will defend you till my dying breath.
I can tell.
And I think that
you'd be really good at it too.
I mean, we'd be so good at it.
You'd be dang good at it. Okay. Anyways.
You'd be the thing that beavers build at it.
Literally.
But I think that, like, thinking about it, if you were to see it, you would maybe on the surface think, like, dominance and submission. I hate that, sorry. Or like leader and follower, even. But I hate that notion because I don't think I'm a follower. I don't think that you're a follower. I don't think that you're, like, I think you could be a very great leader, but I don't think that you're this, like, dominating fascist, like...
I would hope not.
No. Like, you're not at all.
Yeah.
And I think that it wouldn't be fair to our characters to put us into those boxes.
I agree.
But I agree. I think it's also really interesting how we just kind of came to that consensus without actually talking about it.
Yeah. I completely agree. I don't even know if I can... I don't think I can say it better at all. I think you did a great job.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say, like, I feel like probably another part of the reason we put ourselves in these roles like this. Also, thank you for that flattery. Was insane.
Of course.
Thank you so much. Was that, like, and I have the experience because I am a captain of a team. Like, I'm the captain of my hockey team.
Yeah.
I feel like and that's, like, present. That's, like, who I am right now. And we were talking about people changing and all of this stuff.
Yes.
And I think being a captain of a team, just, like, even though I'm confident, like, 90% of the time, that really gives me, like, this boost. And I'm like, oh my gosh, wait, I got assigned to this. Like, this is my job now. This is my role. And I fill it pretty well. And I think that probably affects, like, and that definitely affects how I am with you guys at school, too. Yeah. And, like, just in life, whatever. But I think part of the reason is because that we put ourselves in these roles is because I think I'm probably more aggressive. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. I think I'm probably the more, like, if you put a kite in front of me, I'm gonna rip it in half kind of person. And I think you're definitely a more, like, well, I'm gonna run there first. Yeah, like, I'm gonna beat you. I'm gonna get to that kite first. Yeah. And I think that's just who we are as people. Yeah, I agree. And I don't think either. I think a lot of times in women, this is
kind of a tangent, but it's still relevant.
You're good.
We see aggression as something that's bad. Like,
but it's not.
No.
It's really not.
And when you're in sports, like, for example, my brother and sister play soccer. They're twins.
Yeah.
When my brother gets a foul or he gets a yellow card, everybody's getting up and cheering. Yay, he's aggressive. He's really showing his dominance. He's out there. He's leading. He's, like, a great example.
Right.
And it's actually a good thing to get fouled. But when my sister gets fouled or someone on the other team gets a yellow card, it's like, well, she's really aggressive, isn't she?
Yeah.
And she's really...
Like, why is that girl...
Yeah, why is she pushing her? What was that about? Why is she so dominating? She shouldn't be like that. And I think that it's a really admirable thing, at least for me, of how aggressive you are, because it shows that you're not afraid to not even be you, but to stand up for what you believe in. And like you said earlier, what changes for you is what you believe in. And I think that because that's such an integral part of you, which is a very good thing, obviously, but I think that that's because that's such a big part of you, that is what pushes you to be aggressive and to be out there for you. And
snaps for that.
I apologize if I'm like telling you almost what you are.
No, I appreciate
but
it. It's not like you're saying
sometimes
like you're a horrible person.
Well, no,
and
I
hate you.
And correct me if I'm wrong. You know, because I hate when people tell me what I am and it's not correct.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, so.
No, but I 100% agree.
Okay, good.
I like. Hockey is obviously a very physical sport.
It's an aggressive sport.
And it's an aggressive sport, and we cheer when we hit people.
Yeah.
Because if the person on the other team is hitting our players, obviously we're going to go after them. That's just kind of like a eye for an eye kind of thing.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Which is okay in sports. I'm not sure how I feel about that in everyday scenarios. But in sports, and specifically my sport, I think that's just something that is really prominent, and I think that's why in the Kite Runner, that dynamic is so important, and that's why that dynamic is such a big metaphor in this book, is because it's such an important part to Afghanistan culture, and the author really did a great job using that as a metaphor throughout the entire story. Even though he only uses it in 2 instances, I still could argue that it was probably the biggest metaphor that I was able to find.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting.
I agree, and I think that that's a really good question too, because it makes it relevant for us still.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not from Afghanistan.
Yeah.
I'm not from the Middle East,
No.
and I can still relate to that book in ways.
It shows how it's applicable to everyday scenarios.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think these last 2 questions kind of go with each other. Did you find it believable, and did you cry / feel when reading it?
Yeah.
So, yes, I found it 100% believable.
Me too.
And I think that we talked about this earlier with the Mark Twain unit.
Yeah.
Realism can suck to read sometimes, because sometimes it's just like, he breathed and there was fog in the air. And it's like
okay.
That does nothing for the plot. I didn't need to know that.
Yeah.
And you have to have those mundane, boring moments sometimes to let the plot go. But you have to balance it.
Mm-hmm.
And he did he captured human life.
I would love to meet this author.
I would
so
too.
much.
I would too. He sounds like a great person.
No, I want to shake his hand and be like, your book is actually amazing. It's life-changing.
It is.
Yeah.
You know? And I think, did I cry / feel when it? Yes.
I was sobbing.
I
was
can't even
trying to
begin
read the last page, and I was about to start
I can't
crying.
even begin to explain the impact that this book has had on me. And my mom told me before I started reading this, she was like, it's probably going to be a hard read.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to stick with you for a while. And I'm the kind of... Who is vacuuming? Sorry. Who is vacuuming?
I don't
know. But I think that, for me at least, when I read a book, how I know if I actually liked it is how long it sticks with me.
Yeah.
Because there's been fantasy books or romance books or books that I've read that stick with me, and I'm kind of enveloped in that world almost.
Yeah.
For a month, maybe.
Kind of longer
weeks.
sometimes. Yeah.
But this book, it's not necessarily because a lot of those times it's a world that's not real. This is reality.
Yeah.
This is recent. It was 2001.
Mm-hmm.
And the recent years he's talking about.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just such an,
it's like a punch in the stomach.
It's like being shot.
I feel like I got socked.
Yeah.
I don't think I've had a physical reaction to a book since, the last book in Throne of Glass.
Yeah.
And I was, 12.
Yeah. And
sorry. Sorry.
We're so in sync.
Sorry.
No, I interrupted.
I just wanted to say that, what was I gonna say? That
Throne of Glass, last book you read.
Right. That, like, the only times I cry in books are when it's sad. That's, like, pretty much the only times I've cried. Or when it's, like, super happy, or it's the ending of a long series, or something that's, like, really physically emotional to me. But I had physical responses, and not just crying, like, my stomach dropped. Like, I got goosebumps. I felt sick.
Yeah.
Like, this book, the emotions it invoked was so insane, and I felt like I was there. And I think that's also an authorial choice, to make it seem so realistic and seem like obviously it's set in our world. It was like 20 years ago, or like 25 years ago. Holy crap.
24.
Oh my gosh. It was set 24 years ago, but obviously that's still, like, that's this decade, or this century.
Yeah. And I think that, I agree. The last book that I read that really made me feel this way, like, the series, was The Cruel Prince. I'm still feeling it, TBH. And this book, it didn't stick with me in, like, I'm constantly thinking about it. It's always in the front of my mind.
Yeah.
But it stuck with me in the way of, like, this is so dramatic. But it's, like, a part of my, like, soul.
No, I feel that.
And it's, like, it's a book that I'm probably going to tell my kids about.
Right.
And I'm going to reread probably 2 or 3 more times.
I agree.
Because it's just a book that I think anybody can relate to.
Yeah.
And not in, like, the big ways of, like, because I'd have never felt, like, you know, separated racially.
Yeah.
Insanely from other people.
Yeah.
Because I'm a white woman from Littleton, Colorado.
Yeah.
But there's other, like, small things in there that I can relate to, and I think that is what makes it what it is, because it makes you feel not alone.
Yeah.
It makes you feel seen. And feeling seen is, when a book does that, it's like, ugh.
And the fact that, like, I feel like if I was a part of a denomination, or, which I probably can't even say this because I am also a white woman from Littleton, Colorado, but I think if I was a person of color, or, you know, I practiced another religion, this book would hit home with me too. Even, and the fact that we think that this author was able to do this, like, so widespread.
Like Khaled.
Like, come on, tell me your secrets, dude, because what the heck? Please, I will, like, literally, like, I'll get on my knees and beg for this autograph. Like, it's so good.
I'll wash your feet. Like,
I will not go that far, but okay.
No, like, I will, like, and it makes me have respect for him. That
so
he
much
was
respect.
able to, because I'm a person who, when I speak, I can get the message across.
Yeah.
Writing?
Absolutely not.
Like,
it took me, like, 15 minutes to write a thesis this morning.
And it took me 5, but it wasn't good. You know, like, I can't just put that onto a page like he can. And when authors, like, it's a newfound respect for authors, because that's hard.
And the way he did it broadly and on a tiny spectrum too, like, he was able to do it with metaphors that we could read. We were reading, like, within a sentence it was like metaphor, 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 and then we were able to read between the lines and also understand ones. It was like, wow, how'd you do that?
Drop your secret in the comments below.
And I was talking with my grandpa yesterday about it, because he was there while I was reading it, and he was like, have you gotten to the end yet? He was like waiting, and he's read his other books, Khaled's other books.
Yeah, because there's like 1,000 Splendid Suns or something like that.
We can probably find it. We don't have time for this. And the Mountain Echoes. Yeah. And oh, hello.
Hello, sir.
He's here.
He's watching.
He is. And he said he's read those other books, and he said they were just as good. So I think he's just a really great writer, but this book specifically, it just
stuck with me.
It stuck with me so much, and I think it's gonna stick with me for a long time. Like, maybe even the rest of my life. Like, it hit so hard, and it's stuck so, like, it's there. It's stuck in there. It's not coming
there
out.
for a while.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to be able to see, like, aspects of it in everyday life, which is why it's believable.
Yes.
Oh, I thank you. Which is why it's believable, because you can apply it to everyday life, and I'm sure literally anyone could find things to relate to in this book.
I think that's a great note to end on.
I think so too, especially because we
have
have
5
5
minutes
before
left.
the end of school.
Just for reference, this is an hour and like almost 20 minutes.
And this is, the first part was 20 minutes too. So we
So-
did talk for almost an entire period.
We did talk for an entire period, basically. Like,
we did.
10, give or take 10 minutes.
We did.
I
I could keep going.
could,
Not
honestly.
gonna lie. You pull up some quotes, and
I
we
will
could
keep
keep
going,
going.
yes.
But
But I think that I actually was sitting in class and Miss Russell, you were talking about this, and I was like,
I don't think she's gonna watch this entire
I know, she's probably not gonna
Let's
listen to the
keep
whole
going.
thing. And I was like, Katie, like, immediately the first thought when I saw a podcast and, like, the fact that we could do it for a group, like,
Yeah.
the first thought in my mind was Katie.
Oh my god.
Because I was like, not only, like, you're one of, not the only, all of our friends are intelligent,
Very.
but you're one of the people in our group, one of the only people that is, like, on the same wavelength as me.
Well, have you
All
seen how
the
many
time.
times we
We've
said
said
the exact same thing?
So, moving on.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I was just like, I know I have to do it with you because I know it'll give me the best outcome.
Yeah.
And I know that I'll be so happy and satisfied because I love talking to you about big
Same.
things like this.
Same. And I don't think I've ever had, like, a friendship that we can talk about stuff like our Galentine's party
Yeah.
on Friday, and then also we can go into a deep dive analysis of a book.
Yeah, exactly. I've
Like,
never
oh,
had a
okay.
friend that, and it, like, within the same, like, 5 hours.
Yeah.
You know, because I think we code switched just, like, the same. We can
Yeah.
just do that the same. So,
Which
anyway.
we could talk about code switching too, if you wanted to.
If we had if we had more than 5 minutes left,
Yes.
I would talk about code switching
Yeah,
too.
but-
But I think that that's a really good note to end on, and
Yes.
I don't think you're gonna watch this all.
But if you did, thank you so much. That was so
Thanks
fun.
for watching to the end.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun, and
It was.
if we can do this for every project,
I would absolutely love that.
I will ace this class.
Absolutely. All right.
All right.
Bye.